All right, good morning. Good morning, beautiful people. Hope you all are thriving, not just surviving. I know today I'm going live a little bit later than normal, but I'm just going to jump right into it here because I plan on editing these videos down so that I can actually hold on. I plan on editing these videos down so I can post parts of today's live stream as videos on my channel. So I appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure to send some likes. I know that there's nobody in here, but I am talking to myself for just a little bit. But we have a lot to get to today. So we're first going to be talking about Donald Trump cheating at golf. Yes, I am not surprised. We're going to be talking about that. It's not really the biggest serious political issue, but you know, it's just funny to see how craven this guy is. Like, if this is just a representation of how often, like, how much of a cheater and fraud our current president is. So we're going to use that as an example, but then we're going to get into more Epstein stuff. Now, I know some people are like, oh my God, Scott, you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein again. I'm actually going to be providing a lot more information than is publicly known. And there are a lot of questions and speculation, and there's a lot of stuff kind of like up in the air. And I want to actually really figure out ways to, like, what do we need to do to disclose the Epstein files? Like, what are the pathways to actually achieving it? So we're going to be breaking all of that down. The answers may surprise you, so please make sure to send some likes. Good morning, Kate. Hello, beautiful people in the chat here. So we're first going to start off with something light. We always start off with something a little bit more funny. So here we go. All right. Oh, that was a bad tongue pop. Hold on. Good morning, beautiful people. Please make sure to send some likes. I love all of you. Oh my God. Okay, I wish I could play this video live for you, but while I'm on my live stream, I cannot. But a few days ago, yesterday, a video surfaced. Hold on. I need a sip of coffee first. Hold on. Delicious. Anyway, so yesterday, a video surfaced where Donald Trump was caught cheating at golf. Yes, he cheats in many ways, and, you know, he cheats on his taxes, he cheats about the size of his buildings, he tries to do all of this fraud. You know, he was literally found on 34 counts of fraud, of like felony convictions. Anyway, but it's funny because this video just surfaced of Trump cheating at golf while he was in Scotland yesterday, or the day before. I'd have to double check. But I wish I could play the video for you here on live, though I unfortunately cannot. But if I edit this into a video, I will post it here. But let me break it all down for you. We're going to start with this. We're going to get into more with Epstein. So please make sure to send some likes. So there was actually a guy that wrote a whole book about how Donald Trump cheats at golf. And I was like, wait, really? A guy spent all that time talking about how Donald Trump cheats at golf? Like, dude, that like, we all know he does. You don't need to prove it with a book. But the author says Trump doesn't just cheat at golf. He cheats like a 3-card Monte dealer. He throws it, boots it, and moves it. He lies about his lies. He fudges and foozles and fluffs. Okay, so I just think it's kind of funny. A guy wrote a whole book about Donald Trump cheating at golf. There's way more like substantive things that he's done that have been absolutely condemnable and worth writing a book about. Yet you decide to write it about golf. I mean, hey, if it sells, it sells, which I don't know if it did, but anyway, so taken during a weekend round at his Turnberry course in Scotland, the video shows Trump parking a golf buggy near a bunker in a large portion of the rough. Walking ahead of the buggy are 2 caddies. As the president prepares to get out of the buggy, one of them can be seen stooping down, dropping a ball onto a patch of short grass just before the start of the rough. Trump then uses that ball to take his next shot. So let me preface this. I can't play the video for you all on my live stream, but I will probably make this into a video and post it later on. Looking at this here, I know I wish I could play the video. I can't, but I'm going to show you different still pictures of it. Y'all please make sure to send some likes. I love all of you. There's Trump in the golf cart, and there is caddies. As they're going along, this caddy stoops down and throws a ball slightly behind him. So you see, like right here, there's nothing. And then you can see it right there. I know it's small, and the video will corroborate this, but it's just funny how out of all the things Trump feels the need to do, he cheats at golf even. Like, you know, if this, now you could say, oh, well, he's just minding his own business. Yes, he is. And that's fine. That's just funny. But the thing is, Donald Trump lies about lying all the time. Like, he denies that he lies about everything. So the reason why this is notable is that he would deny that he cheats at golf. Now, if I play golf, I'm not going to deny if I cheat at it. Like, I have never played golf. I've maybe wanted to. And yeah, while I'm practicing and learning, I might do a couple maneuvers. But like, you're like, oh, well, he's not playing in a PGA or a tournament or anything. Yeah, but it's Donald Trump. Do you really think he would do you think that he would not cheat during an official event? Like, anyway, this is not meant to be a super big, like, expose, calling out corruption kind of thing. But the point is, as Pam says, he cheats at everything, you know? So it's just funny that this makes news because, like, he cheats at golf. And look, he probably sees this, and they drop the caddy walks over, drops the ball behind him, and Trump then gets out and, like, looks for the ball and is like, oh, I hit that way better than I thought I did. Maybe I didn't get it in the rough. It's like people stooping so low to literally bend reality to your whims in order for you to not live in the actual reality. Meaning that, like, if you hit a bad swing and it goes in the bunker, you don't live with the consequence of that. Your staff, your people will literally assist you in your delusions. And I think that goes to the core of what Donald Trump actually truly believes. Is he is looking for people to be unabashedly 100% loyal to him 24/7, where they will literally do everything they can to mold his reality to his preferred standing, even if it means people going out of their way to create a fictional scenario, a fictional world for Trump to live in, which I think is a lot what the rich and wealthy and 1% do, because they don't want to face the ramifications of the negative things that happen in their life. So they try to whine, cheat, steal everything they can in order to live out the preferred reality and just shut actual reality out the way. You see what I mean? TDS at its worst. Dude, it's not my fault if you have the inability to listen. Okay, this isn't even just about Trump. The broader point is that there are a lot of rich people that do this. Doesn't matter their political affiliation either. But Donald Trump is just a perfect encapsulation of that pattern. But for those people who are really, really interested further in this, there were some comments that I wanted to read out here. The post here from Patriot Takes is Trump working hard to bring down the cost of groceries. Now, bring down grocery prices. Now, you could say, oh, that's an unfair comparison. You know, oh, he golfs a lot, but it doesn't mean he's just not doing what he needs to do. Yeah, so, I mean, you could make a point. They're probably just being a little bit more facetious with that post. But also, Donald Trump statistically, across other presidents, has spent the most time playing golf outside of the office. So that could lead to a larger pattern of him just not doing things to serve the American people. And this comes on top of, you know, Congress passing the biggest cut to, to Medicaid and food stamps for the lowest income people that is going to be signed by Trump, or that was signed by Trump. So, like, it's really not helping working class people whatsoever. That all being said, This person, a couple comments here. Groceries, a word he invented, according to him. I would have to go through and double check that, but I would not be surprised. Donald Trump claims he invented the best word. It's been around, and it was groceries. Again, I'd have to double check that, but that's funny if he did say that. Watch it carefully. The caddy drops the ball for him. Trump has to cheat at his own course. Trump's shameless golf cheating, having his caddy drop a ball for a better lie outside the bunker, exposes the same fraudulent tactics he employs in politics, proving once again he's a con artist through and through. Now, what was so interesting is while I was looking at, and y'all please make sure to send some likes if you're enjoying the algorithm, or if you're enjoying the live stream. We're going to talk about Epstein here in a minute because there's a lot to get to, stuff that I haven't actually even talked about. But there was this notable exchange that I wanted to cover here. This Winnipeg handshake, whoever they are, says, never trust a man that cheats at golf. Trump's caddy caught dropping a ball for him. And then says some other things. Now, there was someone that obviously was a little bit bothered by that. So they commented, you exposed yourself as an unsophisticated moron. We know you have never been on a golf course, so get yourself a little book called The Rules of Golf, published by the U.S. Golf Association, or Administration, I don't remember what it is, and the RA. Learn to read, then read the book. Try to concentrate, read the part out loud, taking a drop, then shut all the way up. And so this person was like, hey, Grok, can you please clear this up? Is what is shown in the video considered a fair play or cheating according to the book called Rules of Golf, published by the USGA and the RA? Grok responds, according to the USGA Rules 14, a caddy may drop a ball if authorized by the player, but it must be from a knee height in a designated relief area after declaring relief, e.g., for example, for unplayable ball. The video shows a surreptitious drop without apparent procedure, which violates rules on proper dropping and could be playing from a wrong place, thus cheating, incurring penalties or disqualification for misconduct. So Grok was like, yeah, Donald Trump cheated. It's just funny. So then Winnipeg Handshake says, thanks, Grok. So would you say that the rude tone in the comment from, and then attached, clever else was uncalled for, considering they were obviously wrong? And I'm like, okay, dude, like, you don't, I'm on your side here, but you don't need to go this far to like ask an AI bot if their tone is off. Like, you don't need to know, like, this is only trying to prove it to yourself. So Grok then, of course, whenever called, responds, yes, the rude tone from clever else was uncalled for. They were mistaken. The video shows an improper, snaky drop, not a valid relief under USGA Rule 14.3, which requires knee-height dropping in a designated area after declaration. Rudeness isn't justified, especially when wrong. And so I'm just reading this exchange, and I'm like, oh my god. And so then they go on a little bit further. And so, I mean, look, this person is not wrong. They're not wrong to point out that this person claiming that Donald Trump didn't cheat at golf is incorrect. Like, they're not wrong. But it's just funny how they were like going over the top trying to like get Grok to say the answers that they knew to be true. But like, it's just like, dude, it's okay to have more self-confidence. We don't need to act like them. But again, this person goes, thanks, Grok. Would you care to speculate as to why clever else used that uncalled for rude tone? Do you think that they're having trouble coming to terms with the fact that they voted for a guy that might be a terrible, untrustworthy person? And so Grok responds, speculation. Clever else's rude tone likely stems from defensive partisanship common in polarized politics. Cognitive dissonance is plausible. Supporters often lash out when faced with evidence of flaws in their chosen leader, like Trump's documented history of rule bending. Golf cheating reports from sources like Rick Riley's book. It avoids confronting uncomfortable truths about trustworthiness. So, I just find all of that to be so funny and absurd. But, I mean, again, Winnipeg Handshake isn't wrong, but it's like, you're obviously asking Grok these questions in order to get a desired result. But do you think that this person actually like this troll actually would go through and read all of this stuff. It's funny because they were like, how about you read that part of the book and then shut all the way up? It's like, literally a random person over the internet just schooled you along with an AI chatbot on what you claim is is fraudulent. So it's just, I saw that exchange and I'm like, I have to report on it this morning. But so Donald Trump was caught cheating at golf yesterday or the day before, over the weekend. And so I wanted to start off with that. But with all that being said, I want to also talk a little bit more about the Epstein files. Yes, people are like, oh my God, Scott, you're talking about it again. Yes, because there's a lot to talk about here. And so I'm actually going to dive through and talk about some of the recent events, but I also want to get to some really deep substantive questions. Just as a little taste. This guy says, why was this not a big story over the past 4 years if it's so important? So if you are following politics, if you are someone that is really interested in the Epstein situation, why it has unfolded the way that it did, if you're some craven right-wing MAGA person that is trying to avoid the uncomfortable reality that your leader, Donald Trump, is likely in the Epstein files, you might say, well, why didn't they do this under Biden? Why didn't they do this under Biden? Why didn't they do this under Biden? Why did they not care under Biden? We hear you. And there is an answer. But you're not going to like it. The answer, you're not going to like it. So you're going to immediately try to run away. You're going to try to double down. You're going to try to shake your head. You're going to claim that it's fake news. You're going to try to do anything, deny, deflect, distract from all of that stuff. You're eventually going to be like, well, it doesn't matter anyway, once I give you the answer. Like, once you get the answer to this question, you're going to immediately do all of those things. Again, you're going to deny the merits of the answer. You're going to deflect to saying, well, it's not important, or you're going to distract and point at something else, or you're going to say that it's not even that big of a deal. You're going to go through all of those emotions immediately. True. But before I do all of that stuff, let me they'll go through this process. He didn't say that, and if he did, he didn't mean that. And if he did, you didn't understand it. And if you did, it's not a big deal. And if it is, others have said worse. Honestly, that is such an encapsulation of, like, the MAGA, like, rationalizing. But let me get to, before I even talk about the answer to that question, let's get into some of the current events here. So, and y'all, please make sure to send some likes. There's no answer, apparently. Kiss it. Calm down. I'm going to answer that in a minute. I'm putting it out there so that you get thinking on it before I actually reveal the answer. Okay? Calm down. Calm down. So we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. It's called patience. It's a virtue. So before we answer the question, let me cue it up with a little bit of recent events that have happened in the last 24, 36 hours. All right? So for those people who do not know, Donald Trump actually is right now over in the UK. Maybe he's traveling back on a plane by now. I'm not quite sure. But he's been in the UK with Prime Minister Keir Starmer, I believe that's his name, the Prime Minister of the UK, which oversees the UK and Scotland. And he's been trying to negotiate stuff with tariffs and a trade deal with the EU, all that stuff. And while he was there, he was questioned by reporters about Jeffrey Epstein. And there were a couple moments that I wanted to share from those interactions with those reporters. And so in one of these interactions, a reporter asked him, wait, hold on, where is it? Right here. A reporter asked him, when he was taking questions alongside Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Scotland, Trump was asked about the Epstein case, and at one point, he also added that, I never went to the island, Bill Clinton went there, Larry Summers went there. I don't care about either one of those. Great, lock them up. I don't care. Personally, I don't care. Prosecute them. I don't care if Bill Clinton's a former president. Great, prosecute him. If there's evidence that he's guilty, great, prosecute him. I don't care. Yes, I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm not going to praise and defend someone that also has a D next to his name. Like, if someone's guilty, if there's evidence, great, lock them up. I hope that applies to everyone on the other side of the aisle, but I guarantee that for some people, it doesn't. But President Donald Trump added some fuel to the fire surrounding Jeffrey Epstein case on Monday when he fumed at reporters and said he never had the privilege of going to Epstein's infamous private island. Now, you heard me right. This is how the question, how this all went down. He said, and hold on, let me get out the hands. And y'all, if you're enjoying the live stream, please like the stream and send some likes. It really does help out the algorithm. We have about almost 800 people in here. Y'all are awesome. Okay, so Trump responds, I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his parties. A lot of people that love me. I've seen them all. Some of them are regulars. And let me tell you, there's nothing regular about me. Nothing regular about me. I turned it down. I didn't want to go to the island. What? Hold on. Just hold the phone. He is saying, I never had the privilege of going to his island. When you use the word privilege, I never had the privilege, never had the honor, never had the opportunity. You're making it sound like an exclusive, desired thing. What kind of language are you, like, why are you using that kind of language to describe Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island? Like, are you saying that you wanted to be there? I mean, put the shoe on the other foot. For every single MAGA person that is trying to deny this or try to reinterpret it the way that you want to, ask yourself, would you come to that conclusion if it was Biden? Because I sure would. If Biden said that he never had the privilege of going to Jeffrey Epstein's island, I would be like, excuse me, what? What? And I'd be like, look, if there, and then I would dig deeper and be like, well, if there's evidence that Biden has literally been there, has talked about it, like, great, lock him up, hold him accountable, prosecute him. Like, that's awful. So it's funny that there are some MAGA people that are trying to be like, again, going to this logic of, he didn't say that, and if he did, he didn't mean that, and if he did, you didn't understand it, and if you did, it's not a big deal, and if it is, others have said worse. Every single time. Someone said, wow, please get a life, MAGA. Oh, bless your heart, you unsharpened pencil. And see, here's the thing. Let me also point this out here. Hold on just a second. He's gotten in so much trouble for things that he said, and you keep brushing it off as jokes and sarcasm. Cute. It's like, says something good, straight shooter, tells it like it is. Says something horrible, you just don't get his sense of humor, sarcasm, or trolling the libs. And that is the perfect encapsulation of the mentality of MAGA. Donald Trump says something that they are like, oh yeah, that's supposed to be taken 100% seriously. Some people will look at it like, oh, that's supposed to be a joke. But either scenario is favorable for him because it is the desirability. It's the desirability of these people to look at Donald Trump and immediately try to see everything he does as a positive. Now look, I have given credit to Trump when he deserves credit. He at one point said he wanted to lower drug prices. Credit where credit is due. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to give him criticism where it's warranted. When he literally says that he never had the privilege of going to Jeffrey Epstein's island. See, things cannot be serious and a joke at the same time. They can't be. They can't be. So remember when Donald Trump said that like Biden was a robot or something like that? You had half of MAGA saying that he was serious and the other half saying that he was joking. It's like, well, which one is it? Because it can't be both. It can't be both. So, and you could say this for all different partisanship, where if like Biden says something, it's like, oh, he tells it as it is. But then if he then sometimes, oh, he says something horrible, you just don't get a sense of humor. I get that. It's not like this is only a thing on the right. But let me be clear about something. That pattern is not equally represented amongst both sides of the political spectrum, the political aisle. It is not. And if you're one of these people that feeds into excessive both sidesism as a way to deny the culpability of the right, then you are hilariously delusional. Because MAGA does this to such a magnified extent that even bringing up a both sidesism comparison is laughable on its face. Did I say that as eloquently as I thought I did? But you see what I mean, where Donald Trump will say things, again, he'll say, I never had the privilege of going to his island. I never had the privilege, and I did turn it down. So hold on for a second. You're saying you never had the privilege to go to his island, but it sounds like you said I turned it down. So it sounds like you had an offer to go there. An offer, you viewed it as a privilege. Why did you not accept? Like, it's weird. You have to admit that Donald Trump's verbiage around this is just contradictory even more than normal and just weird. He's like, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. If you don't want to do something, then why are you calling it a privilege? Like, you see what I mean? You see what I mean? Again, it gets to this person who made this meme. He didn't say that. And if he did, he didn't mean that. And if he did, you didn't understand it. And if you did, it's not a big deal. And if it is, others have said worse. I mean, it's perfect encapsulation. So that was an interesting little moment. And here are some people's responses. Senator Tina Smith, a Democrat from Minnesota, was like, privilege is quite the word choice. Privilege is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. Must be absolutely horrific for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to watch this all play out. And Brian Tyler Cohen, who I greatly appreciate. I don't always agree with everything, always 100% with him, but I like his approach. He says, the what now? Spot on. So just looking at some people's comments here in regards to Asen always posts these kinds of clips on Twitter or X, whatever it's called. And okay, I love the Golden Girls. So I loved this meme with Sophia. So it's a privilege to go to Epstein's Island now. If President thought it was a privilege, we can be assured he'd crawled over glass not to be excluded from it. He hosted Miss Universe in Puerto Rico from 2001 to 2002 with helicopter range of the island. Why hasn't MSM investigated? I mean, that's a valid question in that case. Only a pedophile would consider going to Epstein's Island a privilege. So you see more and more. Keep talking, Donald. Keep talking. Hey, Dems, here's your ad right here. Run this everywhere. I mean, genuinely. This person says, if you don't know his sarcasm by now, you never will. And he never went there. These people... It's like all they want to, their reality is literally what they want to believe. So this person says, Trump, I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, one of my very good moments, is immensely damning because it reveals a complex interplay of denial, privilege, proximity to Epstein's criminal world, and a prideful framing of his refusal. I know you are really gullible. That's what I know. And so he was best friends with him long before the island for over a decade. Is it his inherent honesty that convinces you? Which again, going back to this person's statement, he's gotten in so much trouble for the things that he said, and you keep brushing it off as jokes and sarcasm. Cute. Says something good, he's a straight shooter, tells it like it is. He's a maverick. He's a maverick for truth and patriotism. But then says something horrible, you just don't get his sense of humor. You just don't get his jokes. You know, you're not in the in crowd, okay? You just clearly do not understand the complexity of Donald Trump's verbiage. And see, here's the thing. This is what I call heads I win, tails you lose logic. where like no matter what it is, people are going to come to the desired conclusion regardless of the set of facts. So Donald Trump says something. If you are one of these people who are a part of his MAGA cult, you might say, like, if you interpret it to be good, it's like, oh yeah, he absolutely said that 100% positive, like blah 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 blah. And then if he says something negative, you're like, oh, he's obviously joking, guys. You're coming to the desired reason, the desired conclusion you want to, based off of your own internal motivations. It's what they call, in the realm of political psychology, motivated reasoning, which when I was in school, I actually studied quite a lot. Think of it like this. For those people who do not know what motivated reasoning is, you see it all the time in politics. And again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the political affiliation or the political aisle at all. Motivated reasoning happens when people are internally motivated to come to a certain conclusion. Everyone might be that way. You say, well, Scott, you're motivated to come to the reason of always trying to critique Trump. Okay. If you're going to press on that, then I need you to give me evidence of when I run away from and when I am inconsistent in my application of logic. Because that's the thing. The best way to avoid motivated reasoning, the best way to avoid it is to have an equal application of criticism and credit. Now, no one is perfect. I strive to make sure that I am as equal as possible. And it's so funny because as I'm saying all of these words, there are going to be some people that might not understand them, and it might go over their heads, and they decide, because they are alpha males, to try and insult my appearance, my voice, whatever in the chat, or try to name call or do any sort of that kind of crap. And for those people, you know what I have to say as a Southern little gay guy? Bless your heart. But let me continue here. So there was that moment as well where he says that it was a privilege to he said it was a privilege to not go to his island. No, words, hold on. He said, I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down. So he called it a privilege, which was interesting itself. But that it doesn't stop there. There were also some other people that commented, mega yikes. I love that one with Steve Carell's face. For anyone who watched Gilligan's Island, there was this one, which I've watched Gilligan's Island with my parents growing up because that was my mom's favorite show. So I always found that kind of funny. Now, another notable part of when being questioned about Epstein while in Scotland yesterday, during his meeting with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, Trump became visibly irritated from questions regarding Epstein. And at one point, there was a question, Mr. President, was part of the rush to get this deal done, the deal being the tariffs with the EU, with him trying to negotiate a rate or something like that, to get the Jeffrey Epstein story out of the headlines? And Trump responded with frustration by insulting the reporter. Oh, you've got to be kidding with that. Oh, you've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding with that. It's utter nonsense. I don't even know who Jeffrey Epstein is. Epstein sounds like the middle name of Einstein. Einstein, Epstein, Einstein. Let me tell you. You know, that's what I know. One of the best. And so he's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But there were also some other notable moments that I wanted to share. So and again, this is another version of that, where it's like, was part of the reasoning rush to get this deal done was so that you can knock the Jeffrey Epstein story out of the headlines. And they were like, look, credit to this reporter. I really wish that other journalists would have the guts to ask those kinds of questions here in the United States. And so there were some other people that were pointing out 0 days since an Epstein deflection. There was this person that said, the reporter did what our media is too afraid to do and put the Epstein filth directly on the table in Donald Trump's face. So I want to actually go to what I was talking about earlier in the live stream. There was one other moment, though, that I wanted to share. that Donald Trump is considering or has brought up possibly pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Not that he's considering it, but that he has the power to do that. But I'll get to that in a minute. So, oh, this was the other thing. For those people who might not also be familiar, back in 2023, I believe, a Democratic senator from Oregon, Ron Wyden, actually brought up on the floor of Congress the question of the 4,700 different wire transfers from Epstein to, I believe, a Russian bank account. I'd have to talk about that more, and I want to get more into the investigation of this, but that's an evolving story situation there as well. And of course, you know, it would be wrong for me not to point out that I think they were trying to spell Christian Nationals and they spelled Christina Nationals. Who's Christina Nationals? I don't know her. Was she on the Miss Teen USA pageant? So I just think that's kind of funny. But going to back to the question that I initially was talking about earlier. So if you're one of these people that are like, you're running away from the answer. No, all of that is information for you to keep in mind when we cover this story. So for the past like couple weeks, right-wingers, as a way to avoid accountability for their orange leader not doing anything to really push for the disclosure of the Epstein files through the Department of Justice and the FBI, and in fact doing the opposite, trying to cover it up by issuing a memo saying that the Epstein list does not exist and that the case should just be closed. You have all these people that are saying, well, why was this not a big story over the past 4 years if it's so important? So you have all these people talking about, well, why didn't Democrats care about, they're like, well, why didn't Democrats care about the Epstein stuff, years ago? What you're also admitting to is that there is culpability, fraud, serious allegations, and very, very critical stuff in the Epstein files. This is a situation to take very seriously. But you're like, well, why didn't you release it years ago? Let me get you that answer. Someone said, nice hair, ma'am. Nice profile picture, bucko. So let me get to that answer here for you. This person responded, and this led me into a really interesting answer along the way. Why didn't Biden release the Epstein files? Well, the Epstein records were sealed by a judge until after Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, which they were not unsealed until January of 2024. So no, Biden couldn't release what wasn't legally available. Biden didn't run a cult. He let the DOJ operate independently, unlike Trump, who demands loyalty, oaths, treats, and every agency like his personal operatives. And no Democrat ran on a platform promising to release the Epstein files. Trump did. Then he blocked them. So obviously some of that is a little bit more opinionated, which I agree with that opinion. But the facts in here is that why didn't Biden release part of the Epstein files? Well, again, the Epstein records were sealed by a judge until after Ghislaine Maxwell's trials. Now, I want to point out something, and I'm going to be skipping ahead here, but I'm going to point this out. This is a graphic that I made. There are multiple parts of the Epstein files. If there's any time to listen to the live stream in regards to understanding Epstein, this is the moment, okay? There are many different aspects of the Epstein files. You have sealed court documents, you have grand jury files, you have the DOJ FBI records. Now, what's really complicated about this with Epstein is that no specific part of this is controlled all by one branch. We'll get to that in a second. There are things that the executive branch can do to disclose and release the Epstein files. There are things that Congress can do to disclose and release the Epstein files. And there are things that the judicial branch can do to disclose and release the Epstein files. What's so complicated is that not one branch first wants to do it because they're all controlled by Republicans, but no one branch has the unilateral authority to disclose all of it. So let me tell you what I mean. So I was like, this is interesting. Let me ask Grok. I said, so why didn't the Biden administration release all the Epstein files? So when I first saw this question by this person, I'm like, you know what? Let me actually research into it. Why? Why did Joe Biden's administration not release the Epstein files? Why did they not? Were they trying to cover something up? And the answer is no. It's because they couldn't. It's because they don't have the legal authority. So why didn't the Biden administration release the Epstein files? Were they sealed under a judge? And so the answer here, the Biden administration did not release the Jeffrey Epstein files because primarily many of the documents were under court-ordered seals, which restricted their public disclosure. During Biden's presidency, 2021 to 2025, the Epstein case was subject to ongoing legal proceedings, including Ghislaine Maxwell's trial and appeal, which impacted the release of certain significant sealed portions of the Epstein files to protect the privacy of victims and third parties named in the documents, as well as to comply with grand jury secrecy rules under federal law. Going forward, for instance, some documents from a 2015 civil defamation lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre against Ghislaine Maxwell were sealed during litigation to safeguard sensitive information, and these were not unsealed until January of 2024. Now pause. Biden was president all the way through the transitional period of late 2024, early 2025. So technically he could have, but also that was not as pertinent or as important because the election was going on. There were so many other aspects that were taking control, that were pertinent, that were in the news. So like, you could say, oh, well, Biden could have done something about it. That's fair. That's fair when it came to specifically this. But also, that wasn't the most like high profile important thing to the American people at the moment. So, and you also had the election going on. So there were a lot of other things that I guess the Democratic administration thought were more important. So that's just putting it in context there. But even if they didn't have as much leeway and leniency as you would believe. So they were not fully unsealed until January of 2024. Additionally, some grand jury materials from Jeffrey Epstein's investigations in Florida 2005 and 2007 and New York 2019 remained under seal, as federal law generally prohibits the disclosure except under specific exemptions, which were not met during Biden's term. The Justice Department and FBI also stated in a July 2025 memo that much of the material was subject to court order sealing, and they would not release sensitive details such as those involving victims or child graphic content. So, in summary, the Biden administration did not release the Epstein files because they were largely sealed by judges, and the administration had no legal power to override those court orders. Ongoing investigations and appeals, along with the privacy protections for victims, limited their disclosures. So for all of these people that ask, well, why was this not a big story over the past 4 years? Why didn't the Biden administration do anything about it? Why didn't they release it? What are they trying to hide? A lot of the Epstein files were under seal by a judge, and the administration did not have the authority to just unseal all of those documents. Now that they were unsealed in January of 2024, close to the end of Biden's presidency, he could have, but that was also during the election. That was during the election where there were a lot of other very, very important, salient things happening with that election. So just putting that all out there. Now, I wanted to go on and I was like, okay, let me dig a little bit deeper. Let me dig just a little bit deeper. So I saw grand jury secrecy rules and FOIA exemptions, which for those people who do not know, Freedom of Information Act, that's what FOIA stands for, prevented disclosures of part of the Epstein files, but Congress could override them. So I see that and I'm like, okay. Could Congress push for the release of the Epstein files back during the Biden presidency? So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to follow these right wingers and like, do they have a credible critique of this situation? Like, oh, well, why didn't they care about it? Why didn't they care about it, during that time? Well, Grok's answer here is, given the constraints of the situation, it's unlikely that Congress could have successfully pushed for the release of the Epstein files during the Biden presidency. Here's why. First, the files were under court-ordered seals, which are legal barriers that Congress doesn't have the direct authority to override. These seals were put in place by federal judges to protect sensitive information, such as the privacy of victims and their parties, as well as to comply with the grand jury secrecy rules. Congress is a legislative body, doesn't have the power to unilaterally unseal court documents. That authority lies with the judicial branch. So part of the reason why Congress don't have the full authority to release all the Epstein files, because some of the documents are under court-ordered seals then and might still be now. So while I would love it to be a simple answer, the answer is that it's kind of hard because there's, again, going back to the graphic here, to the best of my knowledge, as I'm sharing with you, there's multiple aspects of the Epstein files. There's the sealed court documents, the grand jury files, and the DOJ records and FBI records. Now, the judicial branch has sealed many documents during the Ghislaine Maxwell, Virginia Guthrie trials. That information isn't known to the public for the privacy of the victims in the court documents. Now, the federal judges have the opportunity to release them, but they might not have the political will to do so because they want to protect the victims. Though, you could also release the files while redacting, when you take a Sharpie and you redact, you block out all that sensitive information of the victims themselves. Though they would say, well, everyone's calling for the unredacted version, so that wouldn't work. I would say that the redacted version would be better than nothing at all. But that all being said, there's also another aspect that isn't just under the judicial branch. The DOJ and the FBI also have records that they could release, they could release to the public, but they're choosing not to. This gets into the whole scandal situation with Pam Bondi saying that the files, or that the Epstein list is on her desk to review, blah, blah, blah. Then she says that there is no list, all that stuff. Now, Congress doesn't have the authority to push for the disclosure of all of these files. They don't have the unilateral authority to pass a bill and then all of a sudden reveal to the public. But they have significant power in pressuring and moving along, greasing the wheel of the judicial branch and the executive branch to actually release these files. So let me get back to answering that question here. Does this all make sense? Are y'all following me? I hope that this is helpful information for everyone right now, because there's a lot of stuff happening with Epstein, and there's also a lot of fingers being pointed around what can we do. So I'm hoping that this is a really helpful, illuminating live stream. If it is, then just type yes down there. I see for Christine it is. That's great. I just want to make sure that there are other people that are following along. And if you're still a little bit confused, just listen for a little bit. I think that it will be revealed within more time here. So again, could Congress push for the release of the Epstein files back in the Biden presidency? The answer was it's unlikely given that Congress, they could have pushed, Given the constraints of this situation, it's unlikely that Congress could have successfully pushed for the release of all of them because they were under court-ordered seals, which are legal barriers that Congress does not have the authority to override, because Congress is a legislative body, and they don't have that authority. It exists within the judicial branch. Second, while Congress could have held hearings or issued subpoenas, try to obtain the files, they would probably still have mounted to significant legal challenges. Additionally, the Department of Justice could have argued that releasing the files would violate the privacy rights of individuals named in the documents, potentially leading to legal battles that have delayed or prevented the release of the files. Now pause. Even though Congress doesn't have the unilateral authority to release the files themselves, Congress has the power of the bully pulpit. They have the power of the people's house to push for and advocate for and say, hey, executive branch, judicial branch, you need to do something. So while Congress cannot unilaterally pass a law to force the executive branch or the judicial branch to reveal the Epstein files, they can sure as hell make a lot of noise and say, hey, this is something that you have the power to reveal, so you need to do it. So additionally, the DOJ could have argued that releasing the files could violate the privacy rights named in those documents, potentially leading to legal battles that could have delayed or prevented the release. Now, it says in here, third, even if Congress managed to obtain some of the files, it's unclear whether they would have been able to make them public. The files likely contained sensitive information that had been subject to redaction or other restrictions. Now, I would say the only things that would be subject to redaction are the victims' names. The victims' names. I would say that if we're going to release the files and hold people accountable, you don't redact the perpetrators' names. So, just putting that out there as well. Now, one thing, hold on. With all of this being said, where was it? So this is all kind of the same kind of stuff as like why Congress can't unseal the files directly. So this is where I said, okay, well, can Congress unseal and make all the Epstein files public now? No. Congress cannot directly unseal or make all of the Epstein files public now. It lacks the authority to do so. And that's because part of this falls on the judicial branch to hold their part and the executive branch to hold their part. What Congress can do is they can pass a resolution, a non-binding one, urging the judiciary to unseal the files. They can pass a resolution to say, hey, executive branch, you need to release the files. That's something that they can do. It's not binding. What that means is that it is basically a super like pointed statement, but you can't, it's not like a you must do this. It's a we highly recommend that you do this. If not, you are abridging the will of the American people. So Congress can pass a non-binding resolution urging the judiciary to unseal the files, but this has no legal force as it relies on public pressure, which the judiciary is not obligated to heed. So that's kind of unfortunate in that sense. But Congress could also pass legislation to enact a law mandating the release of the files. Well, and this is what Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna are trying to do. Such a law would violate the separation of powers and force constitutional challenges. Though here's the thing, I support that. Why? Because it's what the people want. It's what the people want. So if the people, and what Congress is advocating for here with Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, Congress is the quickest route to representation for the American people. They're elected every 2 years. Every 2 years. Whereas the president is elected every 4 years. Every senator is only elected every 6 years. And the judiciary is appointed from the representative, or is appointed from the people that have been elected or appointed. So Congress is the closest form of direct democracy. So Congress is the best representation in that sense, hypothetically, of the American people. So with all of this being said, if Congress people are trying to push for a resolution to release the Epstein files, then it might actually go against the Constitution and the separation of powers. But if that's what the American people want, then that's what they deserve to get in that sense. But, and I know I'm kind of might be confusing you all a little bit, because we have the separation of powers, we have the checks and balances where they all check each other, it would likely violate the Constitution, but it would also kind of force the hand of the government to say, okay, fine, you're trying to do this unconstitutional thing, maybe fine, we will release the files if you make that much of a stink. And that's what the whole purpose of Congress trying to do this, I believe, is. Also, Congress could investigate the Epstein case, including issuing subpoenas or documents. The executive branch might resist with claims of privilege, but force them into that situation, make them have to go to that. Congress could work with the administration to declassify related information. That is, if there is the will amongst the administration to do so. So I also asked, can the executive branch under Donald Trump release all the Epstein files and make them public? So this was also another interesting question. No, the executive branch under Donald Trump could not unilaterally release all the Epstein files. Partially, this is constrained by legal and procedural limitations. So, you know how I put up this graphic here? So the red is documents controlled by the judiciary. The orange is documents controlled by the executive branch. The executive branch only has the authority to release Department of Justice and FBI records. The judiciary has the power to reveal these things. Congress does not have the authority to release any of them, but has significant pressure to pressure these two to doing what the American people want, which is releasing the Epstein files. So when I asked Grok here, I said, hey, does Donald Trump have the power? Does Donald Trump have the power to release all the Epstein files? It says no, because it doesn't have all the power. It doesn't have all the power to release all of them because there are sealed records, privacy concerns from the judicial court hearings. But the judicial branch can release some of the documents that are covered by the Department of Justice and the FBI, which they do not seem to have the political will to do. So under current law, the executive branch only has a limited authority to release all the Epstein files, but they have some, meaning that, in my view, my opinion, you don't have to agree, they should release the files that they have the authority to release. But they won't, because Donald Trump is in those files. And then I said, is there any way to unseal and make all the Epstein files public? Grok says there's no straightforward way to unseal and make all the Epstein files public due to a combination of legal, procedural, and privacy-related barriers. Again, these files include documents, sealed documents, court documents, grand jury materials, and investigative classified records. So again, going to this here, the Epstein files is spread out across multiple different branches, multiple different parts of our government. And certain parts of our government have the power to disclose their one section. The judiciary has the power to unseal court documents and grand jury files. The Department of Justice and FBI, controlled by the executive branch and Donald Trump, have the power to disclose their documents. Congress does not have the ability to disclose any of it, but they have the significant power of the people's representation and democracy to push for the release, to make the biggest stink about it, and fight like hell in order to achieve it. Now, a good chunk of it is non-binding resolutions. Some of it could have some ties to it, could be challenged in court. But for people like, well, why hasn't it been released yet? Because neither the judiciary nor the executive branch have the political will to do their part in releasing the Epstein files. meaning that the American people are left more and more in the dark. So all in all here, a good chunk of Epstein files are sealed court records, which have to be unsealed by a judge, and the other part are DOJ and FBI files that the executive branch would have to disclose and redact. But it's unlikely that they would do so. Doing that, Bert O'Neill, I answered that question earlier on in the live, and when this is posted, I encourage that you watch it. So that is where we are. I know that was a lot of information. As a quick little summary, the reason why the Epstein files are not made public is because part of the Epstein files are across different branches of Congress, or different branches of our government, sorry. And so it's up for the executive branch to disclose the DOJ and FBI files records. It's up for the judiciary to disclose, redact out the victims' names, the files within our judiciary, and it's on Congress's job to push for the release of all of it. Will it be done? We shall see. Bert O'Neill, I literally answered that question earlier in the live. When this live is posted, please go and watch it. So anyway, I need to get to work. I love all of you. Y'all are awesome. So shout out to my amazing moderators. I hope that this live was enlightening for you all. I know that it got a little bit in the weeds there, but I wanted to provide that information because that nuance is often left out of the public media. Oh my God, Tanner, I literally answered that question earlier on in the live stream. So when this is posted, please go and view it. Because I answered that question unilaterally. Under the Biden administration, they didn't unseal a lot of the court documents already. Now, the DOJ and FBI records, they could have partially done some of that, but they didn't have the unilateral authority to do all of it. So there's criticism there to be said. And it also wasn't as politically salient, or wasn't as politically big at the time, because Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Ghislaine Maxwell was put in prison. It wasn't as much of a big conundrum as it is now. So that's part of the reason as well. Anyway, I love all of you. Y'all are amazing. Shout out to my amazing moderators. Y'all are incredible. KK, Cherie, I love all of you. Akicha, Ellie, Elisa, Joanna Tech, Kantisa, all of you are amazing. Jenny, I cannot do any of this without you all. So, Esbama, love you. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever, 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 ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!